Confidence is not a fluke, confidence is a choice, and it begins with our mindset. In this podcast, you will find a variety of research proven strategies that will lead you from being self critical, your worst enemy, to being the most confident version of yourself. I am Olga, former therapist, confidence life coach, blissfully an IVF mother, a wife, and this is the Journey to Happy podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Journey to Happy, the podcast. This is an episode in which I will be talking about mindfulness. And so the title is How to Stop Running Away from You. And I'm going to tell you a little story about myself, and then I'm going to dive into this beautiful subject, which I'm actually excited to share with you guys here. If you are new to me or if you don't know much about me, I am a former therapist. And so I have training as a clinical social worker, and I worked for many years doing traditional therapy and also a variety of different clinical interventions in a variety of subjects, all from addictions to child abuse to violence against women to all kinds of therapy, marriage counseling and whatnot. But very early on my professional career as a clinician, I also became certified as a mindfulness instructor. And at the time, my only goal was that I had more tools to help my clients. What I didn't know is that as I was being certified, you obviously have to be a student yourself of mindfulness and practice. I didn't know it then, but this practice was going to change me entirely. And that, my friends, is when I realized that I had a very solid habit of running away from me, really avoiding any kind of scenario that made it nice and quiet where I had to be with myself. And throughout the years, I realized I was not alone, that many people who despise being bored or meditating are also, like I was, running away from themselves. And just personally, I never noticed it until I had to sit down and meditate. And then I had myself convinced that meditation wasn't for me because I was too active. And I found that it was against my personality. But really, it is my personality who could really use some grounding. And so, okay, I can't possibly talk about how to stop running away from yourself without diving into or talking a little bit about how the mind works and anxiety. Most of us do not want to sit in stillness because we are then left to our thoughts, to our experiences of those thoughts. And this freaks us out because we have crazy thoughts. We have thoughts that give us all the emotions. And we're particularly uneasy on thoughts that bring emotions that we have judged as not good, right? And so a quiet time is when we feel the mind goes into crazy mode. And by crazy, I really mean let's think as much as we can, as fast as we can, of all the thoughts that would really make this person feel some kind of discomfort. Raise your hand if that is you. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the ability to mourn, blink, and let go. What? Let me say that again. Mindfulness is when you blink your eyes and then that moment is gone. So mindfulness is the ability to just grieve that moment is gone. I have been doing this now for many years, 17 or more. And I have to tell you, being a mom has been the greatest gift because it gets me to be so mindful. And I know exactly what I mean by saying that you have to grieve every little moment that was just gone. And it was so beautiful. So I spend times with my son where I just feel like, oh my God, did we just have a moment here where we're just holding hands and my world stopped for a second? Did he just give me a kiss? And it was the cutest, sweetest. Did I just see him grabbing a snowman and giving him a big hug? How adorable is that moment? And instantly it's like, and it's gone. And most of us are now so attached to our phones. Thankfully, the only positive of that to me is that I have captured so many of those moments with my camera. Okay, so story. story time, but I just, I get so emotional because I understand that ability to blink and let go is something that I work at every day because I want to hold on to those moments forever. Okay. So when we begin to sit down in stillness, we become aware of the passing of our thoughts. And then we realize, hey, thoughts come and go. And so do the emotions that those thoughts bring. So if you have a thought about a bear following you, and that gives you an emotion of fear, then you can notice that the thought left and that the emotion left. Oh my God, if you could just let it go, right? No, instead we attach to it because we cannot grieve the letting go of the thought. The bizarre part is that we have a hard time letting go of that blink and that let go, even when the thought is negative. And what I find interesting is that the majority of the people that I work with, it's not all, are so invested in being authentic. They want to be in the moment. They want to be as truthful to themselves as they can be. But when they think of life in the lenses of impermanency, that things are always changing, they fill their brain with fears and they don't show up as authentic. So the more insight that we can have about impermanency, the more stability that we create. When COVID hit us, what was everybody so preoccupied with? The unknowns. And I was asked to speak at so many different organizations. And that was the message that I kept giving them. You guys, we are in no different stage than we were before. We have never known the future ever, 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 ever. We've always lived with unknowns. But yes, when something traumatic happens, we become hyper aware and then we want to control and we like things to last forever or know things to be forever, right? So when we lost our freedom in so many ways, we experienced that grief, that loss. We thought that we were always going to be able to live life mask free. I mean, we didn't have those thoughts. We just didn't assume that we were going to lose the freedom of not having wearing a mask. And so when we can really have insight in how every little part of life is actually impermanent, that's when we can create a lot of stability. This is so important to understand. Stability does not come from knowing all the unknowns and the future, but it's born by understanding that there is impermanency in everything that we experience in this human life. And that like to rest our mind on that concept, the more we recognize, okay, nothing here is forever. This is a moment in time. I'm going to take it fully. Why I cry so much with my son is because I want to be so present. I feel so grateful. It's like such a beautiful, it's not a sad moment. It's just so beautiful. And I know it's beautiful and I know it's going. Bye, gone. What happened this morning is gone. But when things are really good, we want to attach to them. And when things are really bad, we also think they're going to last forever. So in a way, we attach to them. So when we open up to distress, we naturally open up to well-being and to real nourishment, right? So when we open up to the distress that we might feel when we think about things being impermanent, that's when we can really actually access self-healing. Because that is the experience of this impermanency. That's why mindfulness is like that grief of this ability to let go of the moment. And it's when we open up to the nature of our reality, when we notice that it's neutral, that our reality is just the way it is. It is it. We create resiliency and confidence. Once again, why confidence? Confidence is a state of being in this moment. Confidence is something deeper than personality. Our personality that we're always trying to create, to fix, to improve. This practice of mindfulness, of noticing the moment, of staying in stillness, of noticing the passing of our thoughts and our experiencing, of embracing impermanency, teaches us to be moment to moment, experience to experience. And to experience each of those moments with our whole heart without being afraid of letting go of that moment. Because it's like when you go to a party and you have the most fun that you can possibly have, and then they tell you it's over, you're a little sad, but then you're like, but it doesn't matter because I was so present, I had so much fun. that I'm okay with it ending. Or when you have such a great summer and you're like, I did all the things. I was under the sun. I went to the swimming pool. I went to the beach. I traveled. I saw people barbecue. And then the fall comes in and you're like, yeah, I'm ready. I had a full summer. I was so present. That's what living life moment by moment with your whole heart feels like, and why it makes it less fearful to then let go of that happy moment or of the moment, that moment, whatever moment. So learning how to stop the running away from yourself is all about learning how to love you and your experience. My grandma used to say, if you can't do it with love, don't do it at all. And I think that those words are just coming back to me because it is the decision of, not doing this because I can't do it with love, or doing it with your whole heart, right? So in the stopping, we're learning how to love. Isn't that beautiful? Even the decision of I'm not going to do this because I can't do it with love is learning how to love. It's an act of love. If you tell me you're my friend and you tell me, Olga, can you help me move? And I don't feel like doing it, and I honor that feeling and I say no to you, my friend, that's an act of love. And that's better than running away from me, than not asking Olga, do you really want to do it? And then having the answer and still doing it. Okay. So I love the idea that mindfulness teaches us of stop running away from suffering and instead learning to love. Learning to love ourselves as we are in suffering. I am not suggesting that we learn to love suffering because I'm not sure that's possible. Nobody's going to love that we love somebody we love. Nobody's going to get to the point that you just love this life experience so much. I've had so many difficult life experiences that I couldn't imagine loving the experience itself, but loving me as I'm going through it, that's doable. That is what changed my whole fertility journey, to learning to love myself, infertile and all. So this is not a practice of self-improvement. It's not a self-improvement project. Sometimes when we get into self-work, self-growth work, we make it that we are to fix ourselves. And I always laugh with my clients who are coached with me by a few years, that when we come to that conclusion, remember when you wanted to be fixed? And I'm like, you're not broken. So no, there's no fixing here. This is a practice of reunification. I love that. So actually running away from you is a lack of mindfulness in your life. Okay. It's a lack of being present, allowing yourself to grieve, or having the ability to grieve, the blink and let go. And so this practice is not a practice of self-improvement, and you're not fixing yourself, but you're reuniting. It's learning how to let go until you're stripped bare with the confidence that there is something underneath of what you're always creating, which is much better. And that's when we become free to be whoever we are. So it's such a reunification with self that you become really authentic. That is who you are. The things you're holding on to make no difference to you because you are you. The other day I took some photo shoots with red lipstick on, and if you've never seen my face, you should really go on Instagram and check me out, going to Olga's that way and follow me. And you will notice that I have a whole bunch of photos on my page, and the majority of them are with very little makeup or no makeup at all. That's how I prefer it to be, although I do love makeup and I have makeup. And lately I've been really enjoying just doing my makeup and learning how to do it. Anyways, a few months back, I did a photo shoot, and I, for the first time in my entire life, wore red lipstick. It was a shock to my system and to those who know me very well, system. My parents were like, we don't recognize, wait, that doesn't look like you. My husband was the same thing. He was like, it looks good, but where is my wife? See, I became eccentric. I was free to be who I am. Although I might look different, it is me. It is still me. And although I knew I was doing something that was shocking to my system, and I did anticipate that those closer to me would be like, ooh, what were you wearing on your lips? Even my son, when I picked him up after that at school, the first thing he said was red, pointing at my lips. So it's important to recognize that when we can really get to this place of confidence, self-confidence, we're going to be given permission to be who we are. And we won't think, oh, wearing red lipstick, which is not my norm, will make me somebody else. No, you're being so authentic. You have completely reunited with what's greater than you. And I really love this phrase. I took it from my mentor who's no longer in this world. And so that's a quote that I get from him. And I absolutely love it. Reunification is learning how to let go until you're stripped bare with the confidence that there is something or underneath of what you are, of what you're always creating, which is much better than what you're creating. So like underneath, the creation is this improvement, this self-work. But what he's suggesting, what mindfulness is suggesting, my mentor's quote, talks about what's underneath anything that you think you're creating is better, your essence. So when we stop running away from ourselves and we're saying hello to love instead, how can I learn to love myself in all of these human experiences? You are making a straight connection to self-confidence. Why? Because you're becoming authentic and you're loving you, what's inside of you. So that, my friends, is the concept of how to stop running away from you. Why would you want to run away from? What are some of the hints that you're running away from you? You might feel really anxious. You might feel bored often, and you might feel lonely. Those are very common feelings of the person who's often running away from themselves. Of course, they feel lonely. You haven't stopped to check in. Of course, they feel alone and bored. Nobody's paying attention. And that's when we go into things like, I'm feeling bored. So I'm just going to go into the fridge. I'm going to eat ice cream. I'm going to eat my loneliness away. But it doesn't work because it was not able to turn towards the experience of lack and set ourselves to notice the craving. What am I really craving? We cannot turn towards our suffering without drama. So we create all the conditions. Well, if I'm going to feel suffering, I'm going to eat ice cream. Or I'm just going to run away, right? And so our phones serve as such a great distraction from feeling the feelings because it's so easy to just distract our mind with what's happening on the gram. So notice what it's like for you. Where is it and when is it that you're feeling bored, that you're running to the fridge to fill out your needs, when you're reaching for that phone to scroll endlessly, when you're going shopping even. Like I've noticed that in myself. Like I would just shop when I don't want to feel a feeling. When I lost my last pregnancy, I told my husband, I need time away. I want to be by myself. And I went shopping and I filled the cart with a million things. Anything that I saw, I'm like, yeah, I want sunglasses. I don't need them. I wouldn't even look at the prices of things. I'm like, I filled the cart up. And a friend of mine who's experienced several losses called me and she said, how are you doing? And I didn't even think of my answer. I simply said, well, I feel like I'm shopping to fill an empty hole that will never be filled with anything that I can shop. I'm missing my baby. And that is it. And I didn't want to sit with that emotion. And so I went shopping. But thankfully, my friend called and I became aware. And so I left the store without anything. I realized that wasn't the answer that I really needed to land in this moment. Feel the feeling and turn to loving myself in a moment of grief, to not try to run away from it, to not try to not feel it, but the opposite, to sit in the mud until that lotus nourished grows. So once again, this is not a practice of self-improvement. It's not I need to fix myself project. This is a practice of reunification with yourself, of learning to let go, of learning to love yourself while your moments of human suffering. And it is one practice that, my friends, you will never regret. Never, ever getting into. All of us can gain so much insight from our human suffering. And I do believe that it is the suffering that builds up our confidence, believe it or not. So embrace the suffering, embrace the craving of wanting to get out of there. Just know that that's the thing that we all want to do, but choose to not run away and choose to lean towards love instead of avoidance. If you like mindfulness, I have a tiny little course online. It's called Mindfulness for Every Day. It's got different videos. I anticipate it takes about 4 weeks to go through it. Once you buy it, you have it for life. I'm going to link it to the show notes just because this episode was on mindfulness. It just made me think of that resource that you have. But just so that you know, absolutely everything that I do, all of my coaching programs are pretty much based on the principles of mindfulness. So if that speaks to you, definitely check out my coaching programs because they will all have an element of mindfulness. They're all mindfulness based. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Hope this was helpful to you. And I will be seeing you guys next Monday. Confidence is about taking empowered action with consistency. If you are done wishing you had more confidence with fill out the blank, and if you're ready to put an end to the bully that lives inside your mind, I want to invite you to my next Detox the Mind 5-day workshop, where you will learn proven strategies to go from self-critical to self-confident. For $97, you get 5 days of live coaching calls with me, workbooks to go along with your lessons, and teachings that will literally transform your life. This workshop will break you free from the prison of your own thoughts. Our next workshop begins April 11th, and you can join the waiting list today. Head over to the show notes or my website and make sure you add your name so you can be notified as soon as we open for registrations. I hope to see you inside.